Right, welcome back, everybody. And few of you saying that you managed to find the link, or some of them just started up on the second part anyway. So that's good. So welcome back to everybody, and I hope you've enjoyed the first half. I had a I don't know what made me think about it halfway through, but I can't remember. I saw Sue's name at one point, and I can't remember whether I said hi to Sue. So if I didn't, hi Sue. I can't see your name on here in the second half yet, but I'll say that again in a minute. So we're getting up to numbers. It's an amazing insight into, I must admit, something that possibly I can never see myself going to India. Some people would say, but why not? Well, we all have this appeal to places that we want to go, and I'm much of a homely person, except for Australia. And some people would say, I would never want to go to Australia, for one reason or another. But we're all different. And so, at the end of the day, we are and do what we do. So, if we was all the same, it'd be a strange world, wouldn't it? So, just looking at the comments and the bits and bobs that's here. Doreen's rewarding herself with a with a ginger biscuit because she ran round the football pitch 7 times this afternoon. Did have a breather between each lap, and it was more of a fast jog. Oh well done, Doreen. Who else is there? Jill Doreen. Yep, about the same. Oh, hi, Stephen. Good evening, Steve. You, I don't know whether you was watching in the first half, Steve, but you're with us this half as a valid watcher on the chat. So welcome to you. So right, we're at 5 past. We're about 3 people down at the moment to what we had in the first half. So I'll just chatter for a second or two just to see what everybody. Yeah, I've just read a message from Neil, but it doesn't work. So we'll get there. We'll get that bar at the bottom gone. I've looked everywhere, and there's nothing to shut it down, but I don't know why, but we'll work it out. Hi, Diva. Didn't see you in the first half, but oh yeah, she was there in the first half. I must have just missed her. So Michael Hudson was in South Africa for 5 years. The veldt I used to wander around is now a game reserve. So yes, welcome to everybody. We're just about, as I say, we're just about up to numbers, so we'll make a start. Before I do, I'm just going to read you something out, Caroline, that Ray put. You mentioned when it was the picture of the young couple being photographed on the wall, and Ray's put, you asked about the couple having their photo taken with the lighting. These are quite often pre-wedding photos to show their Western side before the traditional wedding. So that just explains that one a little bit from Ray, accordingly to that particular photo. So I'm going to hand you back over to Caroline again, everyone, and we'll let her move on. And I believe you're going up into the mountains. So over to you, Caroline.
Well, hello again. Well, that's good to know, Ray. Thanks for that. So we set off from Senapati and headed for the hills. It says 1 hour 50 minutes. I think it took us a bit longer than that, but that's what Google says. The roads to start with were pretty good. Harang managed to find us a 4-wheel drive, which actually came in very handy. So to start with, it was good, and then things got a little bit different in places. We had to wait every now and again for things going on, and I think what was going on here was that big stone that's being loaded onto that flatbed truck might be a memorial stone in the making. Because memorial stones are actually really important in this area. We're now in the Naga Hills, and the villages are all inhabited by Naga people. And this village is Willong. It was absolutely amazing. These standing stones on the edge of the village, they could be a World Heritage Site. They're sort of Stonehenge-like, but nobody quite knows what they are, what or why or how long they've been. They're very difficult to photograph because of all the wires and pylons and such like. But you can get the impression. It was just a tremendous area. And to get a bit of scale, this was the headman who let us into the area of stones, which are kept locked to stop people getting in and who shouldn't be there. And they have one of the stipulations about us being allowed to visit was that we wouldn't give any interpretation of what those stones were there for, because we would probably get it wrong, and that's just is prohibited to give any interpretation. So I won't. But it was a phenomenal place to visit, and really should be a World Heritage Site, I would suggest. And the stones, the tradition of using stones continues, and these stones outside somebody's house are quite recent. It looks as if on the right somebody died in 2005, and then a child on the left who died very young. So the tradition continues of using stones, and there's plenty of stone about. The architecture in the village, there are new build houses, but most are traditional with, and I don't know how old any of these are, but they're made of wood, and they would have been thatched in the past, but now corrugated iron. As you can see, there's mobile phone mast, electricity wires. We didn't come across much Wi-Fi because everybody who's got a phone, and pretty much everybody has a data plan, and data is incredibly cheap. So you don't really need to plug in anywhere, you just use your phone with your data supply, although actually the reception wasn't very good in some of these parts in the hills, but obviously it was pretty good in Willong village because they had their own mast. And you can see a satellite dish on the top of one of the roofs there. If anybody has a job other than subsistence farming, then they quite often will invest in a television or a fridge or something like that. But not everybody has them. We'd also learnt, and I'm not quite sure how it all works, but there's plenty of electricity in Manipur Estate because they have a good hydroelectric system. And if I got the story right, and I'm not sure that I did, electricity is either free or very cheap in the villages, because the villages are sort of classed as deprived areas, and this sort of helps them out. But there was electricity everywhere we went of some sort. And the villagers, the villagers were often at war with each other in the past, and they needed a way of defending themselves. And the villagers had gates which could be closed, and any invaders repelled. So this gate had been restored recently, and I don't know whether you can see here, but there's amazing carvings on the wooden part of the gate. And then you look down, a flight of steps that goes down into the valley, and it's a bit burnt out. It's very difficult taking pictures there because it's so contrasty, but those hills in the background do go on and on and on. The tradition of morangs has continued. A morang, and I think they're all that sort of shape of building, is a dormitory. There are morangs for young men and young women, separate ones. And young children live with their parents, but once they get to a certain age, they move out and sleep in these dormitories. They go home for meals and things, but they sleep in there. And Harang, who says that when he goes home to visit his parents, he still sleeps in the morang rather than in the family house. So they have sort of sleeping platforms and things inside, and I'm not quite sure what everything was that was lying around inside this morang, or whether it was actually still being used. But strung round the roofs are skulls. These are probably deer and monkeys and wild boar. But up until around 100 years ago, you would have found human skulls there as well. They were headhunters, and they did keep skulls. They don't do it anymore, but it's part of their history and heritage, and an interesting one. And the Christians who came to convert the Naga people weren't too pleased about headhunting, I don't think. So that was one of the first things that went. And outside the morangs, you get skulls of animals. And I think those the carvings are representative of skulls of human heads that may have been there in the past. But the tradition carries on, and there had been a wild boar had been caught not long before we arrived in the village, and it had been hung up in the door of a morang. Its mouth is wedged open with a stick. That's so that it can't come back and bite anybody, we were told. I presume there was a good feast going on somewhere as well. But traditions do continue in different forms. The whole area is, hunting is very important in the whole area, and it's famous for its dearth of wildlife. Almost anything that moves is killed and eaten. So we didn't see a lot of animals, or certainly very few birds as well, unfortunately. In the centre of the village, there was a sort of covered area where people could congregate. And beyond that, you can see the main church, which is on a hillock. We didn't get that far because the headman came and took us back to see the stones. But that was very prominent in the village. The children didn't particularly want to be photographed and kept running away when I got my camera out. And as in the Imphal Valley, the rice harvest was in full swing, and this woman had been drying her rice on a tarpaulin in the village street, and was just bagging it up, ready for the winter. And there's always some cute dogs around. And from Willong, we could look out way across the valley to Yankullin, which was the main reason we were going up in this area. This is the village where Harang grew up, and it's a superb area. So we moved on from Willong to Vendrami first of all, past Yankullin. And I'm sure it took us more than 37 minutes, but the road is actually reasonably flat. It follows the contours, which means it goes in quite a zigzag. Google Maps are quite fascinating. Thank you, Graham, for giving that idea to me, for showing where we were going.
Just a quick one there, Caroline. Was the roads in among these hills as treacherous as what we see on YouTube, etc., where it's only just about 1.5 cars wide, or was they fairly good roads?
They weren't very wide, and you wouldn't get 2 buses passing. But it was also dry. So it was the roads weren't too bad because it's the dry season, but I can imagine that in the monsoon it wouldn't be much fun.
Yeah.
And although the roads follow the contours, you do get quite a drop if you go over the edge.
Yeah, I notice from that map there, it's an A road.
Oh yes.
But not tarmac.
There were occasional bits of tarmac.
Oh right. Yep.
But not entirely. No, there was something. I think they were working on some bits of it, and I think where it falls away, they do put in a bit of tarmac. But it didn't seem too bad at all. But I wouldn't want to go there in the monsoon time.
No.
I think that could be a bit frightening. Originally, we had thought about staying in Yankullin, but there isn't a road. The road doesn't go up into Yankullin village, so Harang thought it would be a better idea to stay in Vendrami, which is more modern and has a road that actually goes through it. It also has a waiting area, And I don't know whether you can read that, but all the rubbish bins, they have rubbish bins everywhere with good messages on. That one says something rather about keeping things clean. And it's just an amazing sort of place where you can sit out and look over the edge in the evening sun. Bendrami has a shop cum restaurant as well, where this nice man made us all chapatis and with a vegetable curry and an egg and a cup of chai. All very welcome. And he actually posed for me while he was rolling out his chapati. There's quite a few people wandering around. As I said before, there's not a lot of wildlife because it all gets shot. And we stayed in this house in Bendrami village. On the left is the living accommodation, and the house, and on the right is the cookhouse, the kitchen. It's separate for reasons you'll see soon because it could quite easily burn down. So we stayed with, so there's Lungri and Negi and Ed, Trina and me, and this is Harang's auntie and daughter-in-law, who's Nepali, and her son, who was very much into kung fu films and very confused by seeing somebody with fair hair. I don't think he'd ever seen anything like that before. They weren't very good at posing, apart from Auntie, who posed for me when she was making a container out of a dried gourd, sitting in the sun. The son of the family, Auntie's son, has a job at the school, and so they have things like a television. They've got electricity, and they had a fridge as well, and the most amazing heater. It got very cold at night, and you could put on the bars on each of the four sides of this sort of cube, and you can keep it on until the plug gets too hot to handle, when it's best to take that out. It was a little bit frightening, but it kept us warm. So we stayed 2 nights there, and they gave up a room for us to sleep in, and let Lungri cook our food in the kitchen, in the cookhouse. So this was the one corner of the cookhouse. You can see it's quite smoky. There's no chimney. This was they had 2 fires in there. Lungri had one, and the family were cooking over another one. And everything is pretty black because it's smoked. And they have everything that you might want in terms of pots and pans and plates. And storage in the roof. I love these baskets. They seem to be ubiquitous. And there's a picture later on with somebody using one, and that is the headband. You put that around your forehead and carry the basket on your back. These ones are very black. And this was our dinner. Lungri and Harang and the others went to the market before we set off from Senapati and brought our dinner, who spent the journey sitting under the back seat of the car, and then made his way into the curry pot. And he was very nice. And then waking up the next day, you get this spectacular view. It's just a pity about the electricity wire. I could take it out in Photoshop, but life's too short. I haven't done that yet. And the family, we wanted to give them something for their hospitality, but they weren't having any of that. It's in the culture that you provide for visitors, and they really didn't want any payment at all. But we got round it in the end by giving some money for the child towards his needs, and they took that reluctantly in the end. So we went to the village without a road, Young Cullen. You can drive as far as here, and then after that it's walking. And just the most spectacular views again. And that's where we were the day before in Willong. And the road zigzagged all the way around to get to here. But the hills, they just go on and on. Tremendous. And one aspect which tests everybody's legs there, it's not only walking around the village, but the paddy fields, the rice fields, are down in the bottom of the valley. And the only way to get there is to walk. And evidently it takes about 2 hours to get down and probably longer to get up. So you go down and you do a full day's work, or you maybe stay down there. And those are the paddy fields that have been, well, are in the process of being harvested at the time. But again, spectacular views. And here's a woman from the village who's carrying one of those baskets. I'm not sure what she's carrying, but she's obviously been doing that for some time. And there's a close-up picture of a basket with a light load in it. They're all beautifully woven. I would have liked to have taken one home, but I don't think they don't sort of fit into suitcases very easily. You also have to carry the rice up from the road or up from the, well, I don't know how they get it actually from the paddy fields. I suppose they must carry it up from the paddy fields, but there were sacks of rice at the parking spot, the end of the road there, and this guy is carrying a sack of rice up, presumably to his home. As at Willong, there are the old traditional gates, some of which have been restored, some of which have some quite rude engravings on them. And who knows how old they are. But they have these wonderful paths going down, and you can shut the gate and nobody's going to get through there. The original religion of the area was sort of animist. So you have to make sure that you don't upset the spirits. And there are still many who believe in the old religions. So there's certain things that you can and can't do, otherwise you might upset the harvest or whatever. So Trina and I weren't able to climb that fortress. We were able to sit on it, but we weren't able to climb on it. But churches are a major part of the scene now.
It does. It does make you think, what would these people think who have possibly never and will never leave this area? What would it mean to them, or what would they think to see our customs and our area and the way we have buildings and the things we have, and we take so much for granted?
Good question, but I think most people now see it on television.
Yeah, yeah.
The villages are emptying, and Harang's vision for the area was to get more people to come and visit and stay there and promote the local economy, because it is just subsistence farming there. You harvest your rice and you grow your vegetables, and you can live all right, and you've got wood and you've got stone, and you've got electricity. But if you want anything material, you have to get a job, and there aren't that many jobs in the village, other than sort of associated with the school and so on, or maybe driving things, transport. But that's about it. There's no sort of local industries. So promoting tourism would be good, but most people have the older people who maybe haven't left the village very much. Most of their children have gone off to the towns and gone to be educated, and most of the people the people we talk to, who could speak English, are the people who are educated, and most of them had degrees. So
yeah.
They've gone on, and many of them just leave the villages forever.
Yeah, we've just got a question coming from Doreen about the children. Do they actually go away for the secondary education, or do they stay local, or how are the slightly older children taught?
There's a junior school in this village, where the small children went. We passed a school on the road, so I think there obviously will not be so many schools for older children, but we did pass one, and so I think they do stay reasonably local.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. It's a good question.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Different roof styles. On the left, there's the traditional old thatch, but obviously that's been replaced in many houses by corrugated iron. And some new corrugated iron here. And that's the only solar panels. Well, actually, we saw small-scale solar panels in places, but I presume because electricity is provided, there's not so much of a demand for them in the villages, but something maybe for the future. You can see down here somebody's drying their rice.
Temperatures? What sort of temperature are you talking about in these areas?
T-shirt.
Oh,
sort
right.
of. It wasn't too hot, because we're quite high up. It was just lovely weather during the day, but as soon as the sun sets, you needed to pile the layers on very, very quickly, because the temperature just dropped completely.
Yeah.
And I curse myself for not having taken a picture of the lady who lived in this little house. She thought we were sort of hanging around outside there looking at the view, and she came out with a bowl of beans, dried beans, as a sort of snack. And I don't think she's got very much in terms of material possessions. So it's just such a lovely, welcoming gesture. The people were just so amazing. She couldn't speak English, but Harang, who grew up in this village, could. And you don't really need material possessions if you've got pigs and stones. These children were just playing with stones. And there's an organized game that you do with stones. On that flat stone, there's a board that's laid out. And there's a traditional game that's played. I think it was chicken and fox, I think it was, that you've got to move the stones so that in such a way that fox doesn't get the chicken or something like that. But both Lungri and Harang there in the picture knew how to play it. So they were having a little demonstration there. You can see the Christian influence, the high point. There's the cross on the top of the hill there. And all the people many of the people were there were very staunch Christians, very believed very sincerely in Christianity. And just the views were just so stunning, and the rolls of hills go on and on. Amazing. So that was just a wonderful experience to be there. And you can't get there by, you have to walk into the village. And it would be perfect for cultural green tourism. Maybe not so much ecotourism because there's not many animals to see, but culturally it's perfect. But there were some animals to be seen and some forest. We had a little venture into some of the forest. There's not a lot of the big trees have been taken out, and we unexpectedly came upon one of the workers of the forest, which demanded a lot more selfies from some of our group. So we stopped just near a sawmill, and this elephant was coming home from work. And we were talking about tarmac before. See, there was some tarmac there. But we came to see particularly the Mithun. Mithun is an ancient type of ancient cattle breed, and they are very important in Naga culture. They're all privately owned, and they're important. Obviously, they are slaughtered if there's a special occasion, given away as presents, and they're just sort of important beasts. So the owners, they roam wild in the forest, but they can be checked up on very easily. They love salt. So every evening, they're given some salt, and they all congregate in this area and lick the salt. And so they can be checked up on. But they're gorgeous creatures and very sort of gentle and love licking salt. So that was quite an experience. We had a little foray into the forest too, and old trees and young trees. Excuse me. And the fruits of the forest. Some amazing. I'd love to have spent a bit longer there, but there's too much to do. And then we went on to our last location. We went back to Senapati, and then I'm sure it's more than 33-minute journey to Makalongdi. And as you can see at the end of the road, they say there isn't a road, but we got there anyhow. And the point of going there was the grand finale of the trip was the Makalongdi Festival. Harang again had not only arranged our transport, but also our accommodation. And this is a house belonging to another uncle on the left. Quite a modern house, but with the cookhouse, the kitchen separate again, for reasons of fire prevention, probably. The old designs work, the system works. So this was quite a spacious kitchen with a beaten earth floor. Again, the fire in the centre with no chimney, but there were doors and windows to let the smoke out. And the basket above the fire, that's where you put your meat to dry, to smoke. And that cures it, and you can keep it through the winter. Again, quite spacious and sunny on a sunny day. And the facilities. Again, it's quite difficult to get out there in the middle of the night in the cold, but there you go. And spectacular views again, and friendly neighbours who came to visit. And the people just don't look Indian at all. You wouldn't say that you would say they were more Asian than that, more like Korean or whatever. So the morning of the festival came. Where we were staying was a couple of miles from the festival site. At least I think it was, but I'm not quite sure because there was a rather complicated network of tracks that left me a bit disorientated. So we made our way to the spot where the bus, which was an open truck, was going to pick everybody up to take them to the festival. And everybody, as you can see there, was wearing everyday clothes. But while we were waiting, they decided to change into their mekhelas, the women, their skirts. And so we changed into ours as well. And everybody took photographs of everybody else, and we were all squinting into the sun. And they all thought it was absolutely hilarious and outstanding that these Western folk were wearing traditional dress and joined in the fun. So photography wasn't really very easy because it's so contrasty, so difficult, and the sun was so strong. So we arrived safely at the festival site with a big stage and a big flat area in front for dancing. And a day of festival celebrations began. And the whole point of this festival was that the ancestors of the Naga people moved from place to place. And finally, they established a giant village at Makilongdi, where they prospered and the population grew to 7,777 households. Then, about 2,000 years ago, they migrated away from the village in different directions through Manipur, Nagaland, Assam, and Mizoram, and into the borders of Myanmar. And this festival was designed to bring back the diaspora of Naga people to their ancestral village. It was called Return of the Native. And the audience, everybody had to be dressed in at least some element of traditional dress. And Trina lent me the skirt and shawl, so I was decently clad. And the festival was only for Naga people. Trina is a Naga because she was adopted into a village. Her village is Laisong, and I was allowed to attend as her guest. I felt really privileged to be there as the only non-Naga. I was a bit apprehensive as well, wondering whether I would be accepted. There was a lot of dancing and everybody entering into the spirit of things, everybody dressing up for the occasion. And there were games. Tug of war is a traditional Naga game. And any doubts I had about sort of me being an outsider, I was sort of ushered into the official photographs. We were with two dignitaries there, and I didn't think I would be particularly welcome, but I was. Everybody was so welcoming. It was amazing. I felt so privileged to be there. And they were all sort of incredulous that I'd come all the way from the UK to their festival. I ended up with rather a lot of new Facebook friends, which is good. And they all wanted their pictures taken with Trina and me. And everybody's quite happy to have pictures taken because everybody has a smartphone, so everybody was taking pictures of everybody else. So a wide variety of characters. The feathers are hornbill feathers. We didn't see any live hornbills. And young and old were participating and enjoying and celebrating their culture. And it was great to see. And the textiles are amazing. There's the stories behind them all. I think those are the beetle wing cases. There's also shells woven into a lot of the fabrics as well. And this is way inland, but they used to trade conch shells and weave them into their, have them in as necklaces and so on. For seasonal festival goers, toilets are always an issue, but I was really impressed by the system there. You had all these cubicles with your squat toilet, and it was immaculately clean. And you washed your hands as well before eating. This is a bamboo pole with water in it, and I don't know if you can see there's a plug. You pull out a plug and water comes out, and you wash your hands and you put the plug back in again. There was an eat as much as you like buffet for lunch, when biodegradable banana leaf plates. I went rather vegan that day because the curried pork wasn't really quite, I didn't really quite fancy that. But the vegetables were excellent, rice and vegetables. And the refreshments included rice beer. That green vat was full of rice beer, which was distributed to the audience. Which you drank out of biodegradable bamboo cups. But the highlight of the day for many of the people there was the stone piling ceremony. Each village brought representatives from each village brought stones to the site to put back onto the historic their ancestral homeland. So there's all these stones will eventually be sort of planted properly, but they're just laid down for the day. And here's Lungri and Trina by Lysong Village Stone, which was their village. And it was just so amazing to be part of this, and I had a fantastic time. It was the most amazing trip, really. The culture, the scenery, the way of life, and just as a sort of postscript, it's all changed there now. They're living with coronavirus just as we are, and you have to wonder if travel will ever be the same again. And I'm really fortunate to have so many wonderful memories, and it's the people I'll remember most, and too many to mention, but particularly Tia in Kolkata, Yai, Grace and Ingram in Imphal, Ed and Negi, and last but not least, Harang, who made possible our venture into the hills, Lungri, who was a wonderful companion for the whole trip, and of course, my very good friend Trina. And I hope you've enjoyed the evening. And it's strange talking into a void, but thank you who are there for watching.
Well, it's been amazing actually, both listening to your commentary and seeing the images, because although the images tell a story in themselves, just to have that little bit of more extensive commentary with it just fulfills and fills all them little voids and holes that you're wondering why is that there, and you've sort of brought that across really, really well. I exactly know what you mean about the talking to yourself bit, but no, you've done absolutely excellent this evening, and people are just putting exactly that. An excellent talk, thank you, Caroline. Fascinating and educational evening, Caroline. Many thanks for your efforts. Bob's put, what a good night. Many thanks, Caroline. Wishing everyone a good week ahead. Sue, what a wonderful holiday, Caroline. Thank you for sharing it with us. Jill's got a fantastic insight to a part of the world I'll never get to. Some stunning pictures. Thank you, Caroline. And the comments are moving so quick I can't keep up with them. Excellent, Caroline. Really enjoyed it. What a brilliant experience. It's good to see all the festivals was for them and not put on for tourists. And lots more coming up. So, everybody's really pleased and are saying so on the website, on the chat. And some terrific comments to you. So thank you ever so much, Caroline. Some amazing pictures, and what an amazing time you had. How long was that? What sort of period of time are we talking about?
It was only 2 weeks.
Oh, bye. Blooming heck. You certainly packed something into 2 weeks. So, no, that's great. Thank you ever so much, Caroline.
And if anybody wants to go to that part of the world, I can put them in touch with some wonderful people.
So it's now Caroline's Educational Tours. So thank you very much, Caroline, and thank you to all the members for watching, being with us, and sharing Caroline's holiday and a lifetime experience with us. If any of the members do have some images from a holiday that they can share with us, then just get in touch with me, and we'll get you on and let you share those images with us. It's just a little bit of preparation with your images, but after that, it's just telling us a little bit of the story that goes with it. So thank you very much, everybody, and thank you very much for the comments that you've put down for Caroline, and we shall see you next week when I do believe I will be judging the final of the monthly competition, and I'll explain everything on the night. But thank you very much for being with us this evening. Take care, have a great week like Bob said, and we'll see you next Thursday. Thank you very much. Good night to one and all.